Hello everyone, I'm Mrs. LaValle, and this is Taz. We're going to teach you about multiplying fractions today. Remember, when we solve word problems, we use the RDW strategy, which is read, draw, and write. So, if you look at number 1, it says, come in, Tessie. If you look at number 1, it says Kaylee and her mom went to the craft store to buy supplies to make a costume for Kaylee's school play. They needed 3 1/2 yards of gold fabric. If each yard costs $4, how much will 3 1/2 yards cost? So we read the problem. Now we're going to underline the important parts. So Kaylee and her mom went to the craft store to buy supplies to make a costume for Kaylee's school play. In that first sentence, there's no important information. So we're going to skip that sentence and go to the second sentence. They needed 3 1/2 yards of gold fabric. So I'm going to underline 3 1/2 yards. We'll need that information to solve the problem. If each yard costs $4, how much will 3 1/2 yards cost? So now we have read the problem, we've underlined the important parts, and now we're going to try to solve the problem. Okay, so we're going to draw a tape diagram that represents the 3 units for your 3 yards. And then we're going to draw another part, but this part we're going to cut in half. So we have 3 1/2 units or yards. And each of these boxes represents 1 yard. Each of these yards costs $4, so we'll write $4. Now this is $4 also, but if we only had half of 4, we would have 2. So now we can add 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2. 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 plus 4 is 12, plus 2 more is 14. $14. Now we need to go back to the question. It says, if each yard costs $4, how much will 3 1/2 yards cost? 3 1/2 yards costs $14. Question B. They also needed red fabric. Each yard of red fabric costs $2. If they buy 6 1/2 yards of red fabric, how much will it cost? So we read the problem. Now we're going to go back and find the important information. They also needed red fabric. That doesn't help us with our problem. Each yard of red fabric costs $2. $2, that helps us with our problem, so we're going to underline that. If they buy 6 1/2 yards of red fabric, 6 1/2 yards, we'll need that for our problem. How much will it cost? So we have 6 1/2 yards, and each yard costs $2. So I'm going to draw a tape diagram. In that tape diagram, I'm going to have 6 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we have just a half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we have just a half. So now it costs $2, so the value of each of these boxes is $2. So $2, $2, $2, $2, $2, $2, $2, and then half of 2 is $1. So now we're going to add them. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 equals 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. $13. So now we go back to the question. How much will it cost? It will cost $13. Okay, question number 3. It says they had to get 2 packages of buttons for the costume. Each package of buttons weighs 5 1/3 ounces. What is the total weight of the 2 packages of buttons? So we read the problem. Now we're going to go back in and try to find the important information. They had to get 2 packages of buttons for the costume. So the important information here is 2 packages. Each package of buttons weighs 5 1/3 ounce. So each package is worth 5 1/3 ounces. What is the total weight of the 2 packages of buttons? So this problem is a little bit different. It's not talking about the cost. It's talking about how many, what's the total weight of the 2 packages. So here we're just going to have 2 parts in this tape diagram. The first one is worth 5 1/3. The second one is worth 5 1/3. So we have to figure out what is that all together. So I'm going to take the whole numbers 5 and 5 and add them together. 5 plus 5 equals 10. And then I need to add 1/3 and 1/3. 1/3 plus 1/3 equals 2/3. And then we add 10 plus 2/3 to get 10 2/3. So we've answered the question. Now we need a solution sentence. So you go back to the question. What is the total weight of the 2 packages of buttons? The total weight of the 2 packages of buttons is 10 2/3 ounces. The last problem says they also needed ribbon for the costume. Each spool of ribbon is 10 2/5 yards long. If they buy 3 spools, how many yards of ribbon do they have? So we read the problem. Now we go back to look for the important information. The important information is 10 2/5 yards long, and they buy 3 spools. So now we start with our tape diagram. And looking at this tape diagram, I remember that I have 3 spools, so I will need 3 parts in that tape diagram. Each part is worth 10 2/5 yards. So I'm going to write 10 2/5, 10 2/5, 10 10 and 2/5, and then I have to add them together. 10 plus 10 plus 10 equals 30. 2/5 plus 2/5 plus 2/5 is equal to 6/5. Now remember, before we left for vacation, we remember about number bonding our improper fraction. So 6/5 is equal to 5/5 plus 1/5, or 1 and 1/5. So now we have to add our 30 from our whole number plus our fraction, our mixed number, which is 1 and 1/5. 30 plus 1 is 31, and then we have 1/5. Now we go back to the problem. How many yards of ribbon do they have? How many yards of ribbon do they have? They have 31 and 1/5 yards of ribbon. Thank you very much.